Hello everyone, this is gonna be a very short tutorial on how to use textures and how to create textures for yourself. So right now you can look at this small forest in here and it's kind of bland, right? Kind of needs an extra texture for the floor. So I'm gonna show you how to use and create a texture for this. Currently I'm using Blender and I'm trying to export for Godot, but this is gonna totally work for Unity as well and probably Unreal, although Unreal has different kind of assets. Yeah, so let's get into it. I just recently stumbled upon this website. I was not aware of this one. It seems to be free. Everything in here seems to be free. The only thing that these people are asking from their users is to not redistribute, which means, you know, you cannot download their textures and you cannot sell them. But it seems that you are allowed to use them for whatever things that you need them for. Actually entered in their terms of use, and they explicitly say that the way you can use our images, they are free for commercial, non-commercial, just do not sell them. But it seems to be a really great site. I'm not sponsored by them. I find them super useful. I just found this and I want to share you this little morsel that I just found. So I'm gonna go into the ground textures. I'm gonna try to find myself a nice texture for my forest. I know, something like this maybe. Yeah, this is nice. So I'm gonna download this. It's gonna take a while because they are very large pictures. Yeah, this is great. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Okay, now that we have a texture, I'm going to open it in GIMP. So the reason I'm using GIMP is because I like its workflow. You can totally use any kind of software. Any kind of image editor is going to have the steps and the tools that I'm going to use. But if you don't have an image editor, GIMP is free, so you can just use it. First of all, when textures repeat themselves and they are seamless, things that stand out are going to be places and spots like this dark area in here, or this darker ground in here, or this twig in here. These are the kind of features which stand out, and you don't want them. You need to try to minimize them as much as possible. I will show in Godot how to somewhat get rid of this issue, but this is mostly because it's just one single texture. So in an essence, I'm going to use this area for the texture. You can see it's more uniform. I'm going to remove this part. The reason is this texture is not square, and it's easier to use square textures for this kind of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to Image, Canvas Size, and this is a nice number, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to copy the smaller number into the bigger number, and this is going to allow me to create a square texture, so roughly like this. And now I have the possibility to also move it. So if I drag and then hold Control, I can, you know, snap it and make sure that I don't lose anything. I want to keep that leaf. This looks fine. The next step, I'm going to crop it. So I go to layers to image size, and now we have a square texture. And also I'm going to scale this image and, you know, make it something like 2048. This is a little bit more friendly with the GPU. It's not the mandatory thing, but you know, I like these numbers. So right now I have the base of the texture. So this is the base texture. Okay, but this texture is not tileable, right? If I go to layer, click on transform offset, and I click on this button which offsets it by half in both directions, and make sure that the wraparound is being used, you see that the texture cannot tile, and we see the seam that it creates. So in order to do that, I'm undoing that move. I'm going to duplicate this, and this is going to be our seam layer. Right, so what I'm going to do with this seam layer, you will see in 1 second, but I need to make it invisible first, and I need to make the base transform offset it by half, and essentially I'm going to try to remove these seams that we see here. And in order to do that, I'm going to use the original image, right? You see this is not being offsetted, and right click on it, add alpha channel if it doesn't have one, right click, add layer mask, and select the black full transparency. So essentially this tool is going to allow us to remove parts of the texture by drawing with the other texture. I'm going to make the base invisible so you actually understand what's going on. So right now this image is invisible because black means no transparency, right? Alpha is 0. But if I paint with white using a brush, you can see that the older texture becomes more visible. So I also use a texture in here which kind of matches very well this kind of leaf ground texture, but some textures might like quote unquote like they would work better with a sharp brush, or I don't know, there are several textures that GIMP can use, but I really like this one for this very particular example. So I'm going to make the base visible, and we are selecting the mask in here, and we just draw over the seam and make it invisible, right? So if I go in here, I can, you know, draw over the plants, make sure that it doesn't look that weird. You know, if I delete a plant and it looks weird, I can just, you know, complete it like this. This is why I like that texture, because for the brush, because it blends nicely with the twigs and the branches on the ground. So I'm going to just, you know, go and manually fill. You can go as careful as you want, or you can, you know, be meticulous or be chaotic. It doesn't really matter. You can see that, you know, the seam starts to disappear. So I'm just gonna fill and keep on filling this line in here. Try to make it look organic. Try to make sure that I am not cutting plants and, you know, make them look bad. But of course, like this, you can be very uncareful with this process, because you're removing the seam. So even if you don't take that much care with how the plants blend with each other, this kind of detail is going to be very hard to see for the player. But you know, like a sharp seam, it's not that good, especially if you have something like a brick or rocks or something like that, because this technique works for any kind of work. So you can see now I don't have any kind of seam in here, right? But there's still one issue that we have remaining. I'm going to make this base invisible. I'm going to apply the layer mask. Oh, I missed a spot in there. I'm going to fix that one just a bit, like this. Okay, apply layer masks. Okay, and now I am going to offset this seam again by going by half, right? So we see that there are some new seams that we have created, right? You can see here, they don't match perfectly. This is the extra step that we can take. So I undo and I'm going to offset it again, but this time instead of going half, which is, you know, the half of 2000 is 1000, I'm going to go to something like 1/3, which is divided by 3. It's, let's say, 700. I'm just gonna use 700. I'm going to remember this number 700. Okay, and now I can see that the seams are being rightfully exposed in here, right? We see both of these seams and everything stitches up together perfectly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this base in here, move it upwards, make it visible, and add a black layer. This is going to be our fix. And now we draw only in this area in here, right, like this. Okay, there was another one in here. Okay, this looks fine. And now we take this layer and stitch it on top of this one. And now I go image, go layer, and I go by -700. We move in the other direction. Okay, and now I have the completed seamless seam. And look at the base, and I take the seam and merge it on top of the base. So right now we have a seamless texture. We can actually test it and see how it looks. If I go to layer, transform, offset, and I click on this, you can see there's no seam. Of course, we have repeated the texture because we reused the same texture for our seam. But essentially now we have a seamless texture. So I'm going to export this image. Forest, floor, tileable, and I'm going to save it as a PNG. Okay, and export it, and that's it. That's how we have a seamless texture. So here is how this texture looks like in Blender. If I zoom in and I get to ground level, you know, where the player would probably see this texture, you see how this looks like. It looks pretty fine. You cannot see any kind of seams, but of course if you zoom out you do see the repetition, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of this in Godot. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to post more tutorials like this. And if you want to support me and help me make even more tutorials, you can play my game on Steam. You play as this coconut kind of creature and you collect diamonds and try to survive. The game is also a puzzle, but also an action game, and you need to try to survive and not die a perilous death. Oh no, I'm stuck in here right now. I also have a link in description for this game, and also I have opened a Patreon, so any kind of help would be very appreciated. Let's get back to the tutorial. So in order to exemplify how I'm using this texture, I'm going to create a mesh instance in here. Mesh instance. I'm going to create a sphere and play around with just, you know, a sphere. I'm going to make it larger. Oops, maybe squish it a bit like this, you know, trying to emulate, I don't know, something like a forest floor or I don't know, something like that. I'm gonna make a second one in here and make another one in here. All of them are going to use the same material, so I create a new standard material 3D. If I go to albedo and I can select the texture, load the forest, you can see, you know, it doesn't look as we are intending it to look. So in order to fix that, we are going to change how we are UV sampling this image. So right now it's using the default UV for this sphere. If you have a 3D model that you made yourself, it's gonna, you know, use that UV, but we want to auto-generate the UV. So we go to UV in here and we click on triplanar. So what does this do? This feature allows us to apply the texture by making the position and the orientation of the object being irrelevant. Another thing that we are going to do is also enable the world triplanar. And you can see right now it looks like this gigantic forest kind of floor. Yeah, I know there are spheres, but this is how it looks like. You can also see that, you know, it blends and matches in here as well. You can play around with the seam on how, you know, steep or sharp it is. You can adapt that, you know, depending on the material that you're going for. You can also scale it, so I'm actually going to make it a bit larger like this. No, actually I'm going to reset it back so it looks like this, and I'm going to try to address the repetition issue that we are having, right? We can see the texture, it's getting repeated in here. So in order to do that, get back to my material. In here there is detail, and if we enable detail, we see that now everything went to white. The reason is that we need some albedo as the detail. So what I'm gonna do is find, do I have some, yeah, I have some noise texture, right? So I do have some noise texture. I'm just gonna use this noise texture, and this detail also can blend with the other layer. So instead of using the UV layer 1, I'm going to use the UV layer 2, and instead of mixing, I'm going to use multiply. And now we can see that we see the texture again, the texture that we had with the grass. But if I go to UV2 and activate triplanar, you can see that I do get some variation. Now the only thing that I have to do, oops, is to adjust this variable in here, right? I can also activate the world set, the world coordinates. Now I have some variation. Yeah, it's not perfect, it really depends on the texture, but if you zoom out, you don't get that much of a repetition. Of course, you can take this material and, you know, customize it more if you convert it into a shader. You can click on convert to shader, And if you open the shader, you can play around more and edit the code for this. But this tutorial is not going to cover this topic. Maybe somewhere in the future. Anyways, I hope you liked and found this tutorial helpful. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Have a good one. Bye bye.